Well, the temperatures are now fairly mild, and the crowd is loving that at Route 66 Raceway in Chicago, Illinois, the NHRA POWERade Drag Racing Series. In this POWERade Power Time, we ask Pro Stock driver Erica Enders to take the mic and ask our most recent winner, Dave Connolly, some quick questions.
Favorite late night snack?
Taco Bell.
Mine too. What's your favorite karaoke song?
I don't do karaoke.
Good answer. National Geographic or Sports Illustrated?
I'm a male. Sports Illustrated.
Most overrated Pro Stock driver?
I'll get in trouble if I say anything there.
A piercing or a tattoo?
Tattoo.
Most embarrassing moment?
Most embarrassing moment. Actually, I'm looking at the trailer right now and thinking the wrong sponsor on national television.
And last but not least, Jessica Alba or J-Lo?
Jessica Alba. Girlfriend's gonna be mad about that one.
You're supposed to say Jenny.
Yeah, she's referring to his girlfriend, Jenny. Pro Stock highlights, round one.
Let's get you caught up with a couple key matchups. Jason Line, Vieri Gaines. This was all Jason Line off the starting line. Both drivers run identical 6:66 elapsed time, the quickest side-by-side race. But there's a Valvoline Winners Camp margin of victory. Up next, we're going to have Jim Yates and Erica Enders. Jim Yates gets a slight advantage off the starting line and then runs a 6:69 at 206 miles per hour to take out Erica's 6:71. Then it's Greg Anderson and Warren Johnson. Greg Anderson, right side of your screen. This was all him from start to finish. A 6:65 at 207 miles per hour gets him into the second round. Then we have Steve Schmidt and Richie Stevens. Steve Schmidt red lights away a career best 6:68. Richie Stevens in near lane. He runs a 6:67 to get into the next round.
Afterward, Gary Terrell caught up with Richie Stevens.
Richie, you're there at the line. You're focused. You're the #1 qualifier. Out of the corner of your eye, you see a red light for your opponent, Steve Schmidt. Is that unsettle or unnerve you at all?
A little bit. I mean, that never really happens against me. Usually the guy's got the best light of his life against me. I rarely ever get a red light, but we'll take any win we can. I mean, from Mopar, Valspar, Superwinch, Keystone, everybody else that's involved. It's good to get a win here at a Schumacher's home race.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
And so the Pro Stock ladder shows Stevens in line and Johnson and Greg Anderson.
And on the other side of the ladder, some good matchups. Mike Edwards and Jim Yates, Dave Conley and Kurt Johnson. And now it's time for Pro Stock Motorcycle.
Yeah, and Doug's looking for his 4th win in the last 9 races. Last 5 races. And in Pro Stock, round 2, you see the results. And who's going to face Yates, Conley or KJ?
Boy, this is a great matchup here. Dave Conley, we always talk about how good he is driving. Always gets that great reaction time. Kurt Johnson with lane choice has chosen that left-hand lane as everybody has in Pro Stock. They definitely like that left-hand lane. So there's a little bit of advantage there, I think, in Pro Stock. But, boy, you got to be careful with Dave because Dave will nail that tree.
Repeat of the Topeka final. He nailed the tree there. Red light. Conley goes away right away with the first foul of the year. KJ goes on to a 6:66, 207 miles an hour. Conley may have been trying what he actually pulled off at Topeka, but
he pushed it just a little bit too hard. I mean, it's only 0.04 of a second he went red. Remember, when the track is tight, if the car launches a little bit better, that helps the reaction time because it's not only the driver reaction time, but if the car moves a little bit quicker, somebody that's as quick as Dave runs real close to red light, and he just missed it right there by 0.04. Kurt Johnson gets the win.
Other good motorsports for you. ESPN's coverage of the IndyCar Series continues on Saturday, June 24th. The SunTrust Indy Challenge on ESPN2. And for more information, log on to ESPN.com.
I got lane showing.
Oh, yeah, a little strategy discussion.
You're doing good on that. You're winning rounds. That's just really important. You know what I mean? To see you evolve. I see you take a step.
All 3 John Force cars still in the show. John's got to be a happy guy right now.
Jason Line and Richie Stevens. Line has won this race the last 2 years.
So he obviously loves this racetrack, doesn't he?
Well, I want to find the guy who doesn't. Everybody seems to love this place.
Yeah, I mean, it's smooth, it's fast. I mean, you don't have to, you know, the cars usually go right down the racetrack and just throw everything at it, and it sticks, and you run those career best elapsed times and speeds. That's why you love it.
Stevens, top qualifier. One on a red light in round 1. Stevens looking good. And takes the win with a 668. Stevens, 668. And that is Jason Line's 7th hole shot loss of this year. Oh, you got to start thinking about that.
Yeah, Rich just did a great job on the tree. He had 200ths of a second advantage over Jason Line, and that's what he needed. His 668 beating Jason's 667. As you go on board with Jason, you see the jump right there off the launch that Richie got. Just kind of pulled away, and then they kind of pretty much stayed even to the finish line. Jason's going home. There's the Valvoline winners, Kim. Margin of victory.
4 races in a row that he has lost on the hole shot. Here is Greg Anderson, who tells me on Friday that he's having trouble with the tree, and then goes out and wins the King Demon. And it's time for our Checker Shucks Cragen Tractionary interval timers. What are they?
That's a part of a secondary timing system that records elapsed times, primarily for the racer's benefit. They record them at 60 feet, 330 feet, 660, and 1,000 feet. And you also get your 8th mile speed along with your top end speed. And the racers can really use that information to tell where the cars are running well or where they need to work on.
Alan Johnson beat Anderson on a hole shot at Columbus in the 2nd round.
Greg Anderson has a big advantage running the King Demon Crown for the King Demon Crown yesterday. He got 2 extra runs because he made it to the semis and the finals. That information is valuable for these pro stock racers.
Well, especially considering that the pro stock qualifying got washed out on Saturday. And there is Anderson with a 666, 206. So Greg Anderson will face Richie Stevens.
Let's see if we can tell what happened to Alan Johnson. If he launches the car, goes in, goes into some tire shake, pulls second gear, gets a little bit sideways. At that point, he knew that he was going to catch Greg Anderson, so he just shuts her down.
Well, and think about Greg Anderson. He can double up. We said it before. We'll say it again. If he can win today, it's going to be over 6 figures in his pocket. There's the Pro Stock semifinal matchup, Stevens and Anderson, and we just mentioned. And on the other side, Pro Stock semifinal, Yates and KJ. So for Greg Anderson, this is how it looks to be a winner in the NHRA POWERade Series. Well, back at the CarQuest Auto Parts Nationals, it's Pro Stock coming up now. Let's look at a little recap with Pro Stock earlier.
Round number 1. Look at Steve Schmidt, Richie Stevens. Steve Schmidt goes red, throws away a career best 668. Richie Stevens with that 667 gets the win. Your number 1 qualifier was looking good in round 1. Then in round number 2, Richie Stevens against Jason Line. You see Richie get the advantage off the starting line. That's what he needed because he wins on a hole shot. 668 beats Jason Line 667.
So Greg Anderson and Richie Stevens is the first of our 2 pairs up. Greg Anderson is just off the King Demon Crown win. Dave?
Of course, this is a rematch of the 2nd round of the King Demon Crown where Greg Anderson pickpocketed Richie Stevens' opportunity at $50,000. You got to believe that's on the driver of the Mopar car's mind right now. He'd like to pickpocket Greg Anderson, keep him from that NHRA double-up.
Last time Stevens was in a final round was at Indy when he lost to Greg Anderson. For Greg, this could be an enormous payday. Over 6 figures if he doubles up. And the red light is going to give Anderson an even further chance as Richie Stevens with his first foul of the year. Greg goes ahead and runs it through with a 6.64, 207 miles an hour.
Well, Richie Stevens just pushed the tree a little bit too hard. He knew he had to against Greg Anderson if he was going to want to get the win. And he was right. I mean, Greg runs a 64 at 307 miles per hour. He was going to have to get the jump because Richie Stevens in the other lane was running a 6.66, about 200ths of a second slower. But it didn't matter. Once he left before the green light came on, that gave Greg Anderson the easy win into the final.
Quickest side-by-side ever. Fourth quickest in history for Greg Anderson, who has only won once at this track, and that was last night in the King Demon. So he's got a lot to look forward to. Jim Yates and Kurt Johnson, KJ. ESPN's coverage of the IndyCar Series will continue on Saturday, June 24th with the SunTrust Indy Challenge on ESPN2 at 8 o'clock in the evening. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Let's go to Gary Gerald. He's with Greg Anderson.
Well, Greg, the opportunity to have a major payday this weekend. They talked about the King Demon Crown, which you won last night. The extra money that's available here coming up. You have a choice or preference as to who you face in the finals?
I do not. I seem to be pretty focused today. How focused is this crew all weekend? Absolutely incredible. Both Summit Pontiacs have been fantastic all weekend. Now we got a chance to run for it. We had big money last night. Can double it up tonight. That would be fantastic. And you know what? We need to get back to that winner's circle. I'm hungry. I want it bad.
And of course, their performance last night has already been chronicled. The fastest side-by-side pro stock race ever. I mean, it was awesome. But it wasn't for points.
Yates and Johnson with a 6.66, 207 to Yates losing 6.67.
Another good race where both drivers trying to get into the third finals of the year. And this time it was going to be Kurt Johnson. He's got a very steady, consistent race car. He got a slight jump off the starting line over Jim Yates and then ran a little bit better elapsed time. And that gets him into the final round against Greg Anderson.
So there's one of our finalists, and there is the other, Kurt Johnson. So the Pro Stock final will look this way. Anderson and KJ, and Anderson will have lane choice. Pro Stock Motorcycles next.
With Kurt Johnson, that's where we find Gary Gerald.
Oh, yeah, Kurt Johnson is here. He's going to a final. But you saw Greg Anderson get those bonus runs last night and get the King Demon cash, and with numbers that have never been seen in this competition. What do you got for him in the final?
Well, in this category, anybody could win. All you got to do is, well, it makes it sound easy, but let the clutch out on time. You know, these races are won or lost on the starting line. Track temperature went down 10 degrees on that run. AC Delco Cobalt won 266s in a row. So obviously we missed it somewhere. Hopefully we can win this race for Strange Engineering. We got their brakes, axle, center section. This is their hometown right here.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, Pro Stock. Greg Anderson. He's not won a race since early February. And hoping for his 41st, which will make it an enormous payday with contingencies and everything, and doubling up well over 100,000.
And he's never won a national event here in Chicago. This would be his first time. He has won the King Demon, won it last night and back in 2004. But Kurt Johnson right now wants to keep him from that. We heard Kurt in his interview in the previous round that a lot of this is determined on the starting line. He's exactly right. Pro Stock is so close. Greg does seem to have about a 1 to 200ths of a second advantage in performance on the racetrack. So Kurt knows he's got to really push that tree to try to make up some of that.
Kurt won here in 2003. He last won in the series at Vegas.
Little staging duel here. Let's see who goes in first. They're both just gonna wait. There goes Greg. Wow, Kurt drills him on the tree.
Greg has said any number of times that he's having trouble with that. It was real trouble here and cost him a bunch of money. Kurt Johnson with a 664, 207 miles an hour, takes the win to a losing 664, 208 for Greg Anderson.
And Kurt Johnson once again denies Greg Anderson of getting a win here in Chicago. What a job by Kurt Johnson and the entire team. Kurt nailed the tree. Double an 0-12, 12,000ths of a second from perfect, and then runs a great pass, a 664 with a 6. Greg Anderson ran slightly quicker, but that jump that Kurt got off the starting line, he was not going to be caught.
And quickest side by side again. It doesn't matter if you do it shorter as long as you don't get there first. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Kurt's coming this way. We're working our way to the front of the car. That was almost flawless. An 0-12 light, a 664 pass. You knocked out the guy who had the hot hand this weekend. What are you thinking?
Well, it's just a bunch of hard work, you know. Our crew chief, Kevin Horst, he's at a wedding this weekend, and you know, Derek and Bob and everybody involved, AC Delco, Chevrolet, this Cobalt was absolutely flawless today, 66, 67. Redline oil, Mark Christopher Chevrolet, the Goodyear tires were hooked up. Everything was going great, and, you know, we need the points, we need the money, and we need it all, and this is absolutely awesome.
Nothing like a career best to stick in your pocket with a Wally.
Perfect. Thanks.
One more look at it for you. Yep, Kurt did his job perfectly and gets the Wally. Greg comes up to congratulate him. The Wally, of course, named for Wally Parks, the founder of the NHRA.